Welcome back to Studio One Saturdays, where every single Saturday I share something awesome inside of Studio One, and today is no different. In fact, today I want to share one of the most powerful features inside of Studio One. But before I tell you what it is, please don't click away. You're going to want to ignore this like everybody else. But utilizing this feature properly is like having all of the Infinity Stones. Essentially gives you unlimited power inside the DAW. How about that reference? So this one feature is called macros. And if you don't know what a macro is, it is a chain of commands that you can trigger off of a single command. It sounds super boring, but if you care more about making great music and less about playing around and pressing buttons inside of a DAW, then this is the exact feature that you need. So I'm going to share a few macros with you today, and I'm going to show you how you can create your own, and then I'm going to share how you can actually create an entire vocal chain off of a single macro, and I'll show you how to get free vocal presets for Studio One, no third-party plugins required, at the end of this video. Now, I must say, before I get into showing you how to do this, this feature is only as powerful as your ability to spot and identify redundancies in your workflow. What I recommend is filming yourself work for an hour or so, and then review that and look and say, maybe I'm doing this too many times. I have to go through 3 different menus for this, and I do this all the time. Like, for example, I like to add an EQ, the stock EQ I use all the time, and I have to press the plus icon, I have to search for it, and then I have to add it on the insert. And there's a way faster way of doing that. It's still faster than Logic, which Logic doesn't even have a search function for plugins. Come on, Logic, get it together. Every other DAW has this feature except for you. Oh, but I digress. But that is a redundancy in my workflow that I want to eliminate. So let's say I want to add an EQ on this vocal here. I can come up to Studio One, and they've already created this specific macro for adding an EQ. We just go to keyboard shortcuts, we click Add EQ, and there's already a macro created for us. I just assigned this as Control 1 because nothing else was being used there. Then I clicked Assign and Apply, and then OK. And you can also do that same thing with the stock compressor. They've already made the macro there as well. This is fantastic, but I want to do this with a third-party plugin. I use Slate Digital's VMR all the time, and I want to add that to a macro so I can press Control 3 and it instantly loads the plugin. So how to do this is you want to come up here to the Studio One menu, click on Macro Organizer, and then you have all of your macros here inside of Studio One. We can click New, and then we want to add insert to selected channels. You don't want to just add insert, you want to add an insert to selected channels. So if I have this vocal selected here, it adds that insert to whatever I have selected. So we're going to click add. And then if you double click over here, you can actually add an entire effects chain, which I have some vocal presets here. Make sure you stick around to the end of the video where I can show you how to download those. Or you can add a device, which in this case, I want to add Slate Digital's virtual mix rack. And there it is. So I'll select OK. And then you can have it automatically load a preset as well, but I just want to leave it blank for now. Then I'm going to press OK. And now I also don't want to have to double click to open it. As soon as I load that, I want it to automatically open. So I'm going to add another command directly below that. Now here I can type in show and then show channel editor. Then I can click add. So as soon as it opens, it automatically opens that specific plugin. And now I can title this whatever I want. So I'll just label that VMR macro 2 because I've already created this once. And then in the group, I'll just write down my name and then description is insert VMR. And then I can press OK. Now I have that saved. And it is directly here. Now the next step is to trigger that macro to a key command. So I'm going to go up to Studio One and I'm going to go down to keyboard shortcuts and I'm going to search up the macro, which was add VMR. I already had one created and I already have it signed to Control 3, which you can just type in any key here, click Assign, click Apply, and then click OK. Now when I select a channel inside of Studio One, I can press Control 3 and it will insert VMR, and it will open the plugin as well. So I'll select this, press Control and 3, which is my keyboard shortcut, and here it is. Everything loaded automatically. It's directly there, and I can even have it load a preset if I want to, but I just want to leave it as the classic strip, which is the default preset on the Slate Digital VMR. And you can add your own specific plugins on here. It doesn't have to be that. But I like Control 1 as opening the EQ, Control 2 as opening the stock compressor, and Control 3 as opening VMR, because those are the 3 most common plugins that I use on just about anything. Now, the macros don't just stop at the arranger window. They are all over the place, and there's even toolbars specifically for these. So if you come up to the top here, you can click on this little macro button and it says the macros and it says arrangement to the right of it because that is the macros for the arranger window. And there's a ton of presets over here to the left. And I downloaded the productivity toolbar from Ivan Calderon as well. That's on here. There's track visibility, podcast, explore macros, music creation, music editing, audio editing. And you can click on these and you can see there's all of these different macros. You can mix selection, event effects, align transients, all of these really cool macros that are already set up inside of Studio One. Now you can also do this inside of the MIDI region as well. And I think this is probably where it really gets super powerful, especially if you produce and not just mess around with audio files, but you're messing around with MIDI files. This gets super, super cool. For example, let's say I want to randomize the velocity to get my drums to sound a little bit more natural. I can do that with macros inside of Studio One. So here I have a pretty basic hi-hat and kick and snare groove. And I want to just make it sound a bit more randomized and a bit more human in a way. And I don't want to take things off the grid and humanize it that way. I just want to adjust the individual velocities of the notes themselves. Now I could go through and adjust every single individual note here like this by holding Control and Alt and then dragging down, or selecting the note and then dragging the velocity editor here. But that is just a ton of time and it's not necessary. I can select these notes here like this, and then in the music editing macro toolbar that's stock in Studio One, you can come over here to velocity and then randomize by 25%. Now that's sounding a lot better. I kind of want to go a little bit more and randomize it by 50%. And you can see how it's randomizing the velocities here. So here sounds pretty decent. And then over here sounds really stagnant. And usually this would take forever to do if you're individually clicking notes and dragging up and down, but you can do that automatically inside of Studio One. The macro toolbar really is limited to your ability to spot redundancies in your workflow. And this is definitely one of the most powerful features inside of Studio One and one of my personal favorites because it saves me a ton of time and just helps me create better music. Now, if you want those presets, those free vocal presets for Studio One, there's a link in the top of the description of this video. You can click on that and download those presets for free. You just type in your email address, I send it directly to you, and you can download those for free, and then you can create a macro around those presets. So all you have to do is press a single command, and it automatically loads those specific presets onto any vocal. If you love this video, you're going to love last week's video where I compared tracks versus channels in Studio One. This is the first and only DAW that I know of that actually splits tracks and channels, and if you're a beginner, this can be very frustrating, especially if you're moving from another DAW. But once you understand just how powerful it is, just like the macros, it is such a handy feature, and you're definitely not going to want to miss out on it. So you can click on that video there, and I'll see you over there. Now, as always, go create.